Disproving God. In order to disprove God, we first have to define what God is. Some people argue that God is merely the creator of the universe. He initiated the Big Bang, set the laws of physics, then left well alone. He took no further part in natural or human affairs, doesn't answer prayers, and exists outside the known universe. Such a God would be undetectable, outside the realm of scientific calculation, since science observes the universe, and therefore we would be unable to disprove him. But consider also that we would be wasting our time completely in worshipping such a God. Why worship something that can't do anything about it anyway? This benign God, as described here, is the God of philosophy, of deism, and not the God of religion. The God of religion, particularly the one of Christianity, is the one I will attempt to disprove here, given that he is the one worshipped by millions through the use of the holy books. Although the concept of God differs slightly between the three Abrahamic religions of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, and greater still in the many other religions throughout the world, there are some concepts which remain the same, or at least broadly similar. I will bring these together first of all in a universal God definition, before attempting to disprove it. 1. God is omnipotent, all-powerful. 2. God is omnibenevolent, all-loving. This is mostly applicable to Christianity. 3. God is omniscient, all-knowing. 4. God is omnipresent, everywhere. 5. God created the universe, including all living things. 6. God left evidence of how to live your life via insert holy book here. Regarding the first 3 points initially, it is impossible for God to be all of these, and for the current world to be in the state that it is in today. If God was all-powerful, all-knowing, and all-loving, there would be no suffering. Allow me to address these points in more detail. God cannot be both omniscient and omnibenevolent. Many Christians would argue that suffering is created by humans, but they're forgetting the third point. God is all-knowing. He created the universe, supposedly, set everything in motion, knowing how it would turn out to the most minute of detail. So God knew that man would fall, and that Lucifer would be driven out of heaven to tempt the souls of man away from God, and that suffering would occur. Would an omnibenevolent God chosen to have created a species, and indeed an entire natural world, where so much suffering occurs? God cannot be both omnipotent and omnibenevolent. We know that much of the world's suffering is due to natural causes, such as disease, natural disasters, and the like. An all-powerful God could prevent these, yet he chooses not to. And an omnibenevolent God could want to prevent them, yet be unable to. Therefore, both omnipotence and omnibenevolence together are not possible attributes to a supernatural God. Yet Christianity insists that their God is both of these. God cannot be omnibenevolent. Historically, humans didn't know that germs caused diseases, or that plate tectonics caused earthquakes and tsunamis, so they attributed such phenomena to God's punishment for human sin. Indeed, some people today still believe this. Look at the reaction of many to the Boxing Day tsunami a few years ago. Firstly, we know this is not the case, as science has identified natural causes. However, if God were to be the cause of these, how is punishing innocent people for the sins of others a justifiable action? It's the same as the whole Christian concept of original sin. God damns you to hell from the moment you're conceived, unless you accept Jesus before you die. So what about babies who are miscarried, or who die before they're old enough to accept Jesus in their hearts? Innocent babies are condemned to eternal hellfire simply because they were unable to repent for the sin committed by a woman who lived thousands of years before. This is a God who is supposedly omnibenevolent. Such a God does not exist. But God gave us free will, I hear Christians arguing. We can choose whether we believe in God or not. Well, if by free will you mean believe in me or you're going to burn eternally in hell, that is, I suppose, accurate. An analogy is a man coming up to you, holding a gun to your head, demanding all your money, or he will shoot you. You still have the free will to refuse, but who would? Such a God is most definitely not omnibenevolent. God cannot be omnipresent. If God were omnipresent, he would leave evidence of his being here. When I say evidence, I mean physical, measurable evidence. If God was in absolutely everything, and able to manipulate every last atom in the universe, he should be detectable, or at least his influence should be detectable, but this isn't the case. It is unlikely that God created the universe. I only use the word unlikely because what happened at the point at the beginning of the universe is still a scientific mystery. But just because something is a scientific mystery does not automatically mean that God did it. This is what is known as the God of the gaps, where attempts at human understanding of the as yet unknown aspects of the universe are filled in with supernatural explanations. For example, ancient peoples didn't understand how the sun appeared to progress through the sky, so they created fables about gods riding their flaming chariots across the sky. Now, of course, we know that the sun is a gigantic ball of incandescent gas around which the Earth is in an elliptical orbit, giving the illusion that the sun progresses across the sky. In the same way, the authors of the Bible didn't understand how the Earth came to be, so they created a story where God made the heavens and the earth, as well as everything in it, in 6 days. Another argument is that God didn't create the universe in the literal biblical sense, but instead was the initiator. There are several problems with this, not least that explaining the complexity and intricacy of the universe via an even more complex and intricate being is an obvious logical fallacy. Who created the creator? Interestingly, current scientific research suggests that there is no such thing as before the universe, because the singularity that existed at the point of the creation of the universe was the starting point for everything, including time. This means that there was no before the universe, as time began at the start of the universe. God did not create all living things. Certainly not in the creationist sense, where he simply magicked things into existence or moulded man out of dirt. Science has shown that life evolves progressively from simple organisms to complex ones. Even supposedly irreducibly complex organs or organelles, such as the eye or the flagellum, have been shown not to be irreducibly complex. For 150 years, Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection has stood up to scrutiny by the entire peer-reviewed scientific community. Life has been shown to have the ability to have arisen entirely on its own from very simple, basic building blocks that were present on an early Earth. Whilst this does not entirely conclusively disprove God, it does eliminate God as a necessity in this process, and the application of Occam's razor can eliminate him entirely. Turning to the Bible as an alternative proves fruitless, as the Genesis 1 creation account conflicts with the order of events that are known to science. According to Genesis 1, the earth is created before light and stars, whales and birds before reptiles and insects, and flowering plants before any animals. From science, we know that the true order of events was just the opposite. Other religions have similar creation stories, all of which have been proven incorrect by modern science. God did not leave anything like sufficient evidence. If God, in the Abrahamic sense, genuinely wanted universal worship via the one true faith, wouldn't he have left better evidence? The fact that there are 3 main Abrahamic religions with hundreds of sects within each, as well as a plethora of other religions, and those who don't believe in any God at all, should be enough for any rational thinking person to disprove God. Why, if God genuinely loves us and genuinely wants us to believe in him and get into heaven, does he present so many confusing and cryptic accounts professing to be the one true faith? If God wanted to, he could guide the hand of man to write the most amazing book, filled with knowledge and truths not yet known by man, which would later be supported by new science and discovery. He could reveal himself personally to every single human on the earth. He could present indisputable evidence for his existence and tell everyone how to live their lives in order to get into heaven. No discrepancies, no disagreements. The best this supposedly all-powerful God could do was reveal himself to a few Bronze Age desert people and get them to write conflicting accounts, both between religious groups and within each individual religion, which contain vast scientific inaccuracies, huge moral discrepancies, and have been subject to massive revisions by the hand of man. Conclusion. In this essay, I have attempted to define God in the broad religious sense, based on general universal assumptions about the properties of such a deity. I have then looked at these properties and attempted to disprove them using current scientific knowledge and process of elimination. My conclusion is that God in the religious sense, particularly the Abrahamic sense, does not exist, as the properties attributed to him are impossible.